Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Now, once again, you guys have been requesting these videos. The video I did with the girls last week, I got a lot of reception, a lot of questions. But I've been trying to put this interview together for like 2-3 months now since I've been back in Thailand. And I met these brothers through a mutual friend down at Eddie's spot. And I want to let them introduce themselves and where they're from back home in the States.
Hey, my name's Antonio Green. I have a fintech startup called Bayflow out here in Thailand. Living it up.
Hi, I'm Brandon Johnston. I'm from Washington, D.C. I'm a contractor and a photojournalist.
Cool. So you guys now live here in Bangkok like me. Alright. So how long you been here?
Now, over a year a couple months.
Alright. And
Just about 6 months now.
And before you guys moved here, where were you guys living?
New York. Back home.
I was living in the Middle East.
Alright, what were you doing in the Middle East?
I was contracting on aircraft, helicopters and planes, electronics work.
And you were in the military?
Yes.
Right? And you're a military contractor?
Private military.
A private military, and me, so all three of us. So now, let's just jump right into it. So do you all think that it's a common narrative that the only time black men travel is when we join the military? Because it's like 100% in this group right now.
I'd say yes, from most of the people I've talked to, even the blacks that I've met, most feel that if it's not 100, it's about 99, 95% of us only travel outside of what we know, or at least outside of the U.S. or the Caribbean area.
That's a common thing though for Americans, I believe.
Yeah.
That they don't like to travel too far outside the state.
Yeah, we don't.
As Americans, yeah, but as specifically socially.
Alright, so let's talk, just keep it
Blacks.
brother. Alright.
As a brother, I mean, most brothers,
Yeah.
you know.
I can say, I got one or two that might travel, but the rest of them don't.
Yeah.
But why do you think that is, though?
Honestly, I can't speak for them.
Alright, so from your perspective,
yeah,
because you grew up in New York, like which is one of the most multicultural cities in the world, and you're Jamaican descent, right?
Yeah,
from Ireland.
100%.
So, like, the people that you grew up around that are still in New York and never really left New York, why do you think they're still in New York?
Well, a lot of people in my community, like, you know, West Indies and so forth, that they do travel, but they tend to travel back to the countries where their parents come from. You know, but just living outside as expats, then I would say no.
No.
Pretty much I'm the only one.
Do you run into a lot of West Indians abroad, like in Europe or Asia?
No.
I can think most West Indian descent people I met are Americans who end up out in...
Jamaicans usually don't travel a lot.
Yeah.
They're only going to go to Toronto, New York, Florida. That's it. I remember growing up as a kid, my mother would, you know, we'd go on holidays, but it'd be like to a family's house. You know, or Disney World. We'll go to like Kissimmee, where my aunt lived. You know, go to Toronto, where my grandmother lived, and so forth like that. But you know, it's like it was free stay. You don't have to pay for a hotel. That's really how Jamaicans tend to think.
Yeah.
Where you moved to? North Carolina. Now I got Mexico. I can't wait to see the place.
So you grew up in Atlanta. You grew up in Atlanta?
No, I grew up in
DC. So, and with DC being so close to obviously the capital and everything, what was it like when you decided to travel abroad? Like, what did your family say? What did your friends say?
Well, for me personally, it was somewhat similar. I have Caribbean roots as well, as far as Trinidad. My family being Trini, I did kind of the same thing. You know, they travel into Toronto or to the Caribbean to see family and that sort. So traveling wasn't really like considered a taboo thing when it came to that side of the family. But as far as traveling far overseas, my father did some of that on his own. So it was seen as okay, but when I decided to become an expat and actually live overseas, that's when it was kind of a shock to a lot of people I dealt with. But being from, you know, DC, which is the capital of the United States, and you have such a large multicultural group there because of everything going on as far as all the different embassies and all the different, you know, people who come and go for business or political reasons. It's not really a shock for people to travel per se. You know, my close friends, it was a little more of a surprise, but every last one of them were pretty much cool with it, especially considering I went to a very different schooling. I was in an all-boys Catholic school, so most guys there were either on their way to like some kind of pro stardom or high-level, you know, scholar, kind of like Rhodes Scholar kind of thing. So most of them were open to traveling and doing whatever there is to further excel themselves.
Okay, okay. So let's get into a little bit of the meat. A lot of the questions I receive as a black male traveling is, let's keep it to Thailand, for example. Is Thailand racist?
No. Thailand's, well, I wouldn't consider Thais to be racist. I would consider them to be biased, I would consider them to be prejudiced, and at times they do discriminate. But racist, I would say no, because due to the fact, like textbook, when you think of what racism actually is where one believes that their race is superior over the next. I don't think Thais think that way, unless you're talking about their neighbors, like the Burmese and the Cambodians and the Laotians and stuff like that.
Well, wouldn't that be the same thing though?
Yes, but on our side,
So we're
being
coming at it
black,
from that point of view. That's the question.
Yeah, yeah,
Are they
yeah.
racist towards blacks?
Are they racist towards blacks?
I would say no. No, they're not. I would say that, again, they're biased, they're prejudiced, and yeah, they do discriminate.
See, I find colorism and classism to be more prevalent here than racism. And I've been coming here for years, and I've never experienced over obvious racism, but there's still clearly a preference for whiteness in general. So when you guys see the ads for skin whitening care, like what do you think about it? Like, how does it make you feel, or what you like when you first saw it?
They tend to do it for social reasons more so than just doing it because that's just the way they are. It's really for the purpose of just getting along socially. If you step outside of Bangkok, you don't tend to see that kind of behavior.
No, that's true.
But Bangkok is pretty much almost centralized here, so you have to consider the fact that that it's not the states where you have the will, volition, and so forth, that the education to move ahead. Sometimes people will look beyond that and give you an opportunity. In Thailand, not so much, especially when you look at the guys who want to be teachers. These guys are willing to hire somebody due to the fact that they just look white. So, for example, you need a particular type of skill set, native English speaker, or just an English speaking class or something like that. They're more likely to hire somebody from Ukraine compared to even hiring a Thai American. Going beyond just the race thing, but it's just the whole point that it's a social thing that they have for themselves, for them to actually move along.
Okay.
They see that, and that's up to them. I don't really go into that particular type of sector, and I don't have much interest, but that's just how they are. That's going to change.
So, and this is something that I've said before, that I found the clear classism and colorism to be more prevalent here in Bangkok as opposed to when you get outside of it. And I think that might be because it's a major city. I found that the high or high society Thais are more discriminatory by far than the rest of Thai culture. Do you believe that is because they have been exposed so much to Western influences, more British influence, more expat companies, stuff like that here?
I say no. I would say, sorry, you want to say something?
No.
I would say no. I think it's really more so to what the media that they're consuming. In addition to the fact that a lot of the high so ties I tend to see, they do carry some of that sentiment for some of the Chinese, call it way of life.
And they're ethnically Chinese.
Yeah, correct.
A lot of them are ethnically descended.
Within the business community.
Don't ever tell them that.
They don't. Yeah, I wouldn't say that out loud, but
I've met some of them that sound very
some are proud of it. Yeah,
100% Chinese blood.
yeah, some are proud.
That's
but
quite
it's-
fine.
Well, really, in a sense, when we bring up Chinese and Japanese and Koreans who are major business people here, we're talking about expats in a sense, again, because in essence, that's what they are. They're expats from their own nation to be for work. Essentially, if we're talking about Thais themselves, Thais who are from Thailand, we're not even talking about necessarily the mixed Thais, say Thai, Japanese Thai, Chinese, or Thai Korean, just Thais themselves. Me personally, I have to disagree because I think a lot of the social media is the reason that the social issue is what it is, and it's a social thing. It's that simple.
It's their behaviors, or how they get along in society. I think if they were to really just, say that I want to simply just be myself, I truly doubt they'll get along here. I mean, Thailand is a very inclusive culture. You can see that amongst the various ethnic groups from north to south to northeast, and they don't really mix a lot amongst one another, in my opinion. They really understand their position in society, and they tend to just accept it.
So you have a different perspective because you're married. Your wife is
Who told you that, bro?
yeah, I heard about it, you're married. But it's interesting because you're a African American man married to a local woman, and you have a family.
Yeah.
So what is it like for you living here with your biracial family, raising biracial children in a culture that's not your own?
It's fine. You know, I have my qualms here and there with some of the behavior that I see. But overall, what you see with Thais can be very friendly to kids. Thais are not very violent towards children. You know, a lot of people want to pick her up, they want to touch her hair. You know, you understand. They're very friendly. They're very friendly to the kids. What I do like about Thailand the most, though, is just the cost of living and also the services. So, you know, when it comes to like a nanny, we're paying like $700 USD a month for 6 days a week for 7 hours. Well, it's not 7 hours, 12 hours a day.
So $700 US,
correct.
6 days a week, 7 hours a day for a nanny.
Not 7, 12 hours a day.
Oh, 12 hours a day.
12 hours a day.
12 hours a day for a nanny.
Yeah, she does a little bit of cleaning and no cooking at all, which is good. She's a she cooked the salmon all the way through, man. They try to serve it like that. Move that.
I'm kind of lost here. Are you trying to say the cost of living is good or bad?
It's expensive for the service.
Yeah, for the service, that's.
I mean, we didn't pay too much, and honestly, she's pretty good with the kids. I mean, there's no bruises, nothing at all.
Yeah.
When she comes through the door, they run to her. So I mean, we're pretty satisfied with that.
Well, man, it can't require.
Back in the States, I mean, it was like $2,400 a month.
Okay.
And you're talking about like, 7 to 8 hours a day, 4 or 5 days a week.
Wow, that's a major difference.
Yeah.
So on the cost of living, so how does your quality of life? I'll go with you, brother, and you can back up on this. The quality of life that you have here as a relatively a single guy living here in Bangkok, the quality of life compared to DC, is it better here? Is it worse?
Quality of life here versus that of DC is of course going to be way cheaper. I mean, being in DC in general, it's a highly expensive area. The location itself is, because of where you are, how close you are to things, it's very expensive. It used to be a time where areas were cheaper due to the environment per se, but a lot of that has changed over the past 4 years. DC has become a very, I guess you would want to call it a high-so area, so everything is expensive. The taxes alone for property there, what people pay here for a condo to own, or possibly even a home on the outskirts of Bangkok.
You can buy a condo for $100,000, $125,000.
Yeah, or even some of these condos.
Even less, even cheaper. I'm talking here.
Yeah.
Right across from where we are.
Exactly.
I don't think you want to go below 100,000.
Yeah, you don't want to go below 100,000, but you're gonna be learning Thai real quick below.
It really just kind of depends, because there are some expat areas where you could probably pay about 50,000 and you'd be good.
Everybody not. Maybe they're very not.
And Bang Na actually is really changing. They've made a major effort here to really develop and industrialize a lot of the area.
I ain't living in Bangkok.
I mean,
it's a nice mall.
It's your choice. It by all means is what you're comfortable with.
Yeah, what you're comfortable with.
But
But for you,
I've seen that there's a lot of opportunity here.
Dealing with Nigerians up there.
Yeah. Oh, ain't nothing wrong with Nigerians in here. But you know what? It's interesting.
Me and Super get to deal with Nigerians 24/7.
But no. All right, let's bring it back.
No one loves the Nigerians more than me. Okay.
Let's bring it.
And we can talk about how much you love the Eritreans and Ethiopians too.
Actually, I love Eritrea. Those girls are cold, man.
So here we go.
All right, cool. Let's go.
I'm sure you want this on tape now, because
Listen, I'm not doing
got
anything.
water.
Listen, first of all, okay, no one's gonna take my eyes away from me. Right? That's my human right.
Okay, this will not be translated into Thai for those of you who are watching this.
So come back. We'll get back to the living thing. But since he brought up Nigerians, this is something I want to talk to you about.
It's good music, man.
So great music. Something I was that's consistently brought up, especially from women of color who come through Southeast Asia and a lot of parts of Central and Eastern Europe, is that they keep getting mistaken for hookers or hustlers and whatnot. In my experience, there's a large percentage of the African population here in the city
Yeah.
who are prostitutes and are involved in
Yes, they are.
illegal
Drug
activity,
trafficking.
drug
They're
trafficking.
involved in illicit trade. Let's be honest about
So
it.
so do you feel that that is a fair characterization that people are making? Do you think it's out of pocket?
No, you know what? Once again, if you experience something, if you're told something, people will develop, biased feelings in addition to prejudice type behavior over time. I mean, as we discussed with Thais, Thais tend to have their thoughts, and Thais themselves don't really question things; they just behave on it. Very impulsive,
Reactionary.
Right? Yeah,
Very
correct.
reactionary.
They're quite impulsive too. So it's just a cultural thing. They don't really question. But they will engage to see further if you are of that particular type.
Right.
So
you're saying is that you might be mistaken for some Nigerian
Possibility, yeah,
hustler
of course.
or whatnot,
Yeah.
but Thais before they engage us any kind of discriminatory action, they'll engage you to find out if you were that.
You have a better chance of the benefit.
Yeah, like-
of the doubt.
Benefit of the doubt.
Thais are interesting. Funny story. I went and got a massage, and the lady looked at me and was like, "Oh, I think you Africa, Nigeria, your face, but your nose is so nice. You have a nice nose." And then she said, this was got to me the most. She said, "You're a very clean man." That's what I know. I was sitting there. I'm like, man, you went from the nose to hygiene.
Yeah. Well, it's microaggressions are very it's different here because in my experience, I found that microaggressions aren't also not always necessarily malicious. It is just sometimes from experience, their only experience is kind of like, damn, that's fucked up.
Yeah, for that too. Thais are not, just like education-wise and so forth like that. They're not encouraged to, or have they really been exposed to like other world cultures? For them, Africa is just Africa. There's really not many. There's no countries in Africa.
Right.
It's just
Africa.
Well, it's the same thing with Americans too.
Yeah, pretty much. My grandfather thought that Thailand was in China. He was quite surprised that it was his own country.
Oh.
My dad thought that Japan had problems with drug trafficking. He was like, "Why are you going to these countries? They traffic drugs." I was like, "This is Japan." I see it on the TV, man.
So let's pick this back up. Alright, so what do you
the
got?
Nigerians.
No, we don't let the Nigerians go.
No one loves the Nigerians more than me.
Nigerians.
Believe me.
But, so let's get on U.S. politics. You know this was coming. Donald Trump. What do you guys think of Donald Trump?
He's unique.
Unique cat.
Mm.
What about you, B?
Politician, maybe businessman, yes.
But do you think, for example, the whole travel ban thing that they did, and I did a video on this, traveling under Trump for us. Like, you're an expat for the most part, and you're here. But for us, like, we got to deal with visas and shit. Like, we have to deal with going home and coming back to different countries. Like, I'm not going to be able to go to Iran this year, likely, because of this travel ban. So, do you guys feel that this travel ban is warranted? Do you believe that what he's, the direction he's taking is
warranted through fear? Let's be honest about it. I mean, you can argue. I've been listening to a lot of the news recently. I try to stay away from CNN, but however, though CNN is pretty much just driven by way of emotion and with their arguments. And they made a pretty good, argument today with some of the like the lawyers who are dealing with like constitutional lawyers that are dealing with it through the federal government. And it's interesting because you can argue that it is a Muslim ban compared to simply just being a travel ban due to the severity. In addition to, just the problems that the States tends to have, and the sentiment that Americans carry amongst, call it just the United States, against Muslims. So you can't argue that it is, Muslim ban compared to something being a travel ban.
But do you believe that Americans have a bias against Muslims?
Yes.
Really?
Americans have a bias against many things.
Well, I think we have a bias against everything, but I don't think Muslims are special in that way because, like, for example, I think the system that we come from has a significantly higher disregard for us as black men than they do for Muslims in general. I I think if we're talking about a total poll of people, we ain't.
Black is a race, Islam is a faith, it's an orientation, it's an organization. If you put it that, if you want to put it that way. Well, not organization, but institution. Just like with all faiths, there's a particular type of behavior that's expected due to the practices of that faith. I don't think you can actually put the two together, to be honest with you. Just the fact that with Islam, you have various races that practice Islam.
Right. Blacks.
Yeah, sure. So, you got like brothers from,
from
African American. Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
blacks.
Yeah, of course. But what I mean is that when you say that America or the United States has a bias, and I think that's, I just don't think, it's the same as when people say that this is a Muslim ban. I'm like, okay, on the face value, I can see that.
It can be argued.
Yeah, it can be argued. I'm like, okay, I could definitely 100% see that. And then when you say America has a bias against Islam, I'm like, or Muslims, I'm like, oh, I can see that. But are we looking at a total history? Are we looking at a pre 9/11, post 9/11 world? Or are we looking at the last couple years of
turn of the century? Pretty much, yeah.
I don't think you can say turn of the century. I really think it does have to do with the post 9/11 world, and also has to do with specifically looking at not just per se, the dangers of so-called Muslims or people from these Muslim nations, but it really comes down to political issues and political problems with some of the nations. Now, I do not necessarily agree with the ban per se, how it's being done. For myself, I don't love CNN, but I do know a lot of times it's one of out of country. CNN, BBC are the two main things I have access to, besides Yahoo or whatever comes up on some other website. And I try to not find.
I never see Fox.
I've done Fox occasionally.
Fox has become CNN, and CNN has become Fox.
Really?
Yeah, honestly, everything possible about Trump. It's similar to like what you would get with and I'm not saying it's the same, but there's some similarity. There's nothing positive that Trump isn't going to do for CNN, but everything positive that Trump's going to do for Fox. And vice versa.
Well, Fox has had issues recently as well, from what I've seen a little bit of, and also some people giving me their personal thoughts on, as far as they've let it go to a point where just the rants have gone to a whole nother level. Now, back to per se what I was trying to get as far as the ban. I do know that this ban, with as far as Iraq being one of the nations, that has hindered and hurt as far as from being ex-military.
And we've all gone to these countries as well. A lot of these countries. So we have a different perspective.
Exactly.
I believe. Yeah. And when I step back and I said this before, that I think one of the biggest issues, the only reason that Trump or anybody, even if Obama would have done it, the reason that our government can get away with these bans or these restrictions is that most Americans have no direct contact or experience with these countries. So if we said, like, hey man, we're going to invade Canada because they're assholes, people are going to stand up against that. But if you say, yo, we're going to go invade Mali, like, people are like, where the fuck is Mali? Like, hey, FYI, it's Africa. I think it's different in that way, that
most Americans probably would say we want to invade a
Americans, we're educated, to a particular understanding for certain, call it, cultures. Pretty much it's Western European. Very little about Asia we get to learn about, and just like education-wise, unless you like higher education to extend yourself outside of that, and especially Sub-Saharan Africa. All of Africa, let's be honest about it, most Americans do not have much of an understanding. Like, seriously, I feel like in my own parents, they're West Indian and so forth like that. They talk about Africa, the only thing in Africa they really know about is like, Ghana. That's where pretty much our ancestors came from, in Egypt, because it's in the Bible. That's pretty much it. But I just think on that side of the world, most Americans, getting back to what you were saying, are not enculturalized in a way that they have an understanding or an interest in that part of the world.
So as we can't help Americans as a whole, but I think as
yes, we can.
Well, we can try.
Yes, we can.
but we all can. But I believe as men of color, and this is why I think this video is so important, and I want to do more like this. Is I think that we can show young African American men the opportunities and the abilities to travel the world and what it's like out here. So what do you believe is the most important thing that you've learned from travel that young African American men can use to be more successful in life in general?
Don't be afraid. I think that is probably one of the biggest things with young African Americans is the fear factor of the unknown, things outside of the box that we were raised in or we believe we were raised in. You know, as a black male, I think when you get raised in the U.S., especially from a Caribbean family as well, there's a certain, I don't want to say standard, but there's a certain set of rules per se, or certain things that you were raised with, you know, especially if you came from a family with maybe both a mom and a dad, or, you know, you had a mom and maybe a close mentor. They tend to give you a lot of rules or things, or guidelines that they think you should abide by. And it tends to put people in this box thinking that this is the way your life has to be. And getting beyond that and seeing what's best for yourself, I think, is the first thing you really have to get to. And it just opens up doors. And I think when they get past that fear factor, it makes it that much more simpler as far as traveling the world. You just, well, I want to see this, go. You know, you make your plan and you sit down, you figure out what you need, what you don't need, and you go. I mean, many other cultures and many other ethnicities have been doing this for more than decades or generations.
This ain't new.
Yeah, this ain't new. You know, how many kids have backpacked, you know, Europe or Asia or some parts of Africa for so
These
many
cultures, though, they're encouraged to behave this way, though. Like, you know, Scandinavians, Western Europeans, Russians, you know, with their love for Pattaya. You know, actually, that is a great Russian beach town. Because it's really not Thai.
And
it ain't Thai.
But it's no
Russian.
But it's no different.
They took it from me, man. They took it from me.
You know, I know we said we're going to stay with Thailand, but it's no different than Bali and Indonesia as far as with Australians. Most Australians find their way to Bali. You know, it's in a sense I can say
you though. With all honesty.
But it's also, it also, Americans found their way to Mexico as well, to Cabo, et cetera, et cetera. And the spike over the past few years from passports was because we now need passports to go to Canada and Mexico. So but I think one of the biggest things for us is, you're right, is that as African American men, travel is at the bottom of the list. I don't recall being, my uncle Larry, I love him to death, was one of the first people to talk to me about travel because he was a soldier. Like, because he had done the military, and the way he explained it to me, it was like another world. Like, it was such a thing. And you gotta remember, this is the 80s. You know, this is early to mid 80s. Like, so the only perspective of a black man abroad was coming to America for me. Like, that was really, like, think about in the 80s, what other representation of a black man overseas did we see?
Well, I'm martial arts, so I'm gonna have to say Enter the Dragon, Jim Kelly.
Jim Kelly, that's right. But I think that for me, one of the most important things that I've learned that can help young black men is that we have a certain set of talents and abilities and background and history and culture that people around the world want to know about. They want to experience. They want to be part of. Especially hip hop culture. Like, you go to Korea, my God. Like, I'm like, yo, the Koreans would put the work in New York on some b-boys. Man, I've seen some.
They could do. I've seen you talking about another, you know.
Or even jazz. Like, when it comes to jazz.
I disagree with that.
Yo, man, I'm saying.
I mean, I don't understand the Korean language per se, but their rap, I think their flow sometimes is 10 times better than some of these new artists coming out of the States.
Man, that's like, you know, hip hop, man.
I'm just being real with you. This stuff is like.
You said some of them.
Yeah.
So we're talking quantitative terms, we're talking about maybe like 35, 25.
But let's say.
Okay, but we're not talking about the guys that have been around forever and a day. Okay, you're stuck in 1995.
No, I'm stuck in today.
We got it, man.
What about Logic? Logic is nice, man.
See what I'm saying? But Logic's been out for how long?
For like a couple years now.
A couple years?
Yeah, Logic is like 22 years old, man. He's not that old. He's like 22 years
He's
old.
young.
Okay, y'all Wikipedia that for me. Let me know later.
All right, so when it comes to so for me, like I was saying, is that one of the most beautiful and inspiring things that I see when I travel is African American culture being embraced by people who aren't black or who aren't even white. Like when I go to Budapest and I go to a jazz, like Budapest Jazz Club is one of my favorite jazz clubs. It is brilliant musicianship. Here at saxophones or at Patek, it's brilliant musicians, and they're Thai, and they know Pine Top Perkins, they know Muddy Waters, they know the Nicholas Brothers at the dance school.
Jelly Roll Morton.
Man, I don't know about it. I don't know. I don't know if they got that deep yet. But
Well, how many Americans know Jelly Roll?
but it's interesting to see that around the world.
Yeah.
So this leads me into my next question: is what aspect of black culture have you seen outside of the United States that you appreciated, that you didn't appreciate? Like,
I want to say not just African American culture. Let's say black culture. You know, talk about like salsa music and so forth, like that. You know, the West Indies.
you could
No, I've seen that.
No, I'm just curious.
They have clubs out there.
I know
salsa
they do
music.
have
So I was
salsa,
quite
yeah.
surprised to see Thai people.
But that's not really considered.
But do you consider that black culture?
That's what I'm saying.
Salsa music wouldn't exist if it wasn't for blacks. Comes from Cuba. I mean,
I agree. I agree.
Colombia, Puerto Rico.
Yeah, it's the same with samba. Samba is black.
That stuff would not exist if
Brazil, yeah.
So I gotta say, I wouldn't consider it to be black culture, but I would consider it to be black culture. If you follow what I'm saying.
I do. Yeah.
I know there's gonna be some Latinos be like, oh, you cannot say that.
No,
You
you're
don't
gonna
go, man. You don't go.
You gonna start
There's
a
gonna be
fight.
some Latinos be like, yeah, he's crack, yes. Mucho fuck.
You have Hispanics on your tail too, so I mean, I'll be ready for both.
Hey man, they love me, man. They love me.
Okay, Big Poppy.
So, what about you, B?
I would have to say.
What do you love?
What do I love? I love being able to see the hip hop culture as far as the imitation, but at the same time, I feel like it's a double-edged sword because I've seen people want to imitate it, but they show no respect for it. And they show no respect for where it comes from. And it's very funny when you go into places and like here sometimes it's hard to know if you're not American where I'm from. Most people, if I don't open my mouth, you may think one of three things. You know, many people have told me before. I mean, I've been approached by Muslims from the Middle East before who thought I was
I get that often.
from
I get that, especially in Malaysia.
Yeah,
I get that quite often.
Exactly, and depending on where you go, no one's really sure.
I never get that.
I wonder why.
I wonder why.
Well, I guess we just, maybe this is a bar.
Let's give it to the light-skinned brother side of the room.
For a second, this is a light-skinned problem.
I follow.
You got them Wesley Snipes problems over there.
I'll get you a passion to 57 hat call it a day.
So, as African American men, what has been the biggest tribulation of traveling? You know, like what has been the biggest issue that you found traveling or living abroad?
I guess in Thailand, one of the biggest things is that they have issues with Nigerians, due to like drug trafficking and so forth like that, and so they'll just openly stop you. Hey, you, Nigeria, you, passport. They're looking at them like not Nigerian.
Yeah.
Oh, American, okay, America, good, okay, see you again. So it's kind of like you just get openly stopped.
Yeah.
So they have these issues. But besides that, though, I guess the only issue I have with Thais is just the ignorance. The media they consume. In addition to that, a lot of Thais tend to not really go outside of themselves. They tend to be how can you say? Very, what's the word I'm looking for here?
Insulated?
Well, not insulated. That's the wrong word, though. It's not really insulated. It's like, they're not willing to be individuals.
Okay.
To really step outside to learn.
Followers.
Thais, culturally, Thais are followers.
Okay.
Man,
and it's different for us, especially because we're very individualistic.
Yeah, in the States, and we're encouraged to behave that way.
Yeah.
Thais, no, not so. Like for example, like the business community, like you look amongst like Thais, a Thai who has a very called innovative idea or possibly even creative idea, they get shot down. They get encouraged to like, hey, oh no, you're not going to take on that. What other country is doing that right now? No, we'd be the first ones. Okay, not a good idea. Not a good idea. They just throw out the idea. I mean, say to yourself, I mean, Thailand's looking to present itself to the world's community to being this particular type of business hub for innovation and so forth like that. But you yourself are not willing to take the chance or the risk to, just to take on these particular type of ideas or tasks or ventures. And you tend to see that with Thais, not just within the business community alone, but also within the people.
The hierarchy that they're raised with.
Yeah, they're not going to step outside themselves to actually be who they really want to be, in my opinion. They're simply going to, follow the role that they're encouraged to follow because they believe it's going to give them benefit. With the skin bleaching stuff and all that stuff.
Right.
I've met like a Thai woman once who said she disliked it totally. Oh, I think it's so disgusting, this and that, blah, blah, blah. But she still does it. So to me, that is, so I'm looking at it like, you don't like it, but you're doing it.
But don't, is to a certain extent, is that also something that is unique to Thainess, or you think
No.
Yeah.
Americans do it as well.
We do it as well. I ain't bleeding, ain't nobody bleaching their skin, but I think we do a lot of things just to get along, especially in our community. I think we do a lot of there is, and I get a lot of kickback for this. I feel like within our community we are taught to stay in this little bubble, like of blackness, of what it is to be black. And I think it's
like the art that you consume, things that you might like. So I remember growing up as a kid and I took a liking to like classical music.
Right.
Because I had an aunt that was like in love with it, and that's what she listened to when I was in Canada. And got back and like listening to like Green Sleeves on my Walkman. Discman, forgive me, Discman.
Yeah, you owe it.
Discman, man. Remember the Discman? Like back in the day.
I thought you were trying to say you had a cassette player for a second.
I know. I said Walkman. I remember Walkman was the older one. However, though, be like, yo, son, what you listening to, man? It's not, dudes leaning back on you, be like, man, it's just good music. So yeah, I would agree with you on there. Pretty much we become very myopic, looking to protect the culture by making sure that others cannot go outside of it, and finding some sort of like mistreating them socially, so that they don't step outside. So there were times where I would honestly like call it like sneak my music, listening to it, like, oh, I gotta change the CD, man. Big Daddy Kane. Yeah, man. What you listen to? Man, Kane is hot. Still good, man. Still good. 1999, but he's still good.
So B, what do you think?
I agree with him completely. I mean, even just with the music thing, I think, he's Jamaican as well as being a brother. That there's a.
I don't follow. What does that mean? But Jamaicans are not brothers.
They are brothers. Okay, American, Jamaican American. I'm racist. I'm racist.
We call ourselves Jamericans.
Exactly. See, you say that. I call you brother. I mean, that's what I say, but obviously.
There's the other side of me that's not a brother due to the fact that.
That's what they say.
You should be shot.
Man, you get shot in the ass. A cop don't shoot you in the ass just like he don't shoot you in the ass.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I'm just coming from this per se, not from me, but what has happened to me, what's been said to me. I'm even worse because my Trini blood is also Chinese. So I'm all mixed up. So I listen to all kinds of stuff. And I went to the South for college, and these guys looked at me like I was crazy. I was just listening to Caribbean music.
Southerners,
they were like, what are you doing?
Different breed.
What y'all boys going over there? Like, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah. And like, you listening to that Beanie Man,
And I think that we as a culture really emphasize on, hammering people who, the nail that sits out, everybody back into place.
I see though, with our generation of millennials, things are starting to change.
Yeah. I would agree. I would agree.
Queens and Brooklyn, and you're starting to see like, the neighborhoods are changing quite a bit, and they are encouraging, to listening to different music, and even with cuisine and food, food. I had to introduce this one like, Jewish American chick from like, Portland. It's like Trinidadian food. And she had like bacon shark for the first time. She's like, oh my God, this is so delicious. It exists. It's like, I was like, there's tons of these places in Brooklyn. I just never go there. It's like, I'm gonna go there more often.
So let me ask you this, B, and this is for you because you're married. I'm gonna ask you because people in the comments.
I'm not American, but okay.
No. He's married. He's married.
Married. Oh,
The men who are most
sorry.
likely sending him these requests are most likely not married.
Yeah, not
Trust me,
married.
there's probably like 5 guys out of like 100 who are like, I'm interested.
Yeah, I'm interested. We're in Thailand.
Everybody like, somebody right now is skipping over like 1 minute. Man, I don't listen to this.
So as a single black man in Thailand, what is it like to date here?
I think it's interesting isn't necessarily the word to put it, but it can be challenging depending on what you're looking for.
Yeah. Something and I hate to cut you off. Something that I told somebody like today in a comment. A brother asked me, "Hey, what's dating like out there?" And I was like, "Oh, it was great if you date Thai women and white teachers. It's perfect.
Yeah.
It's amazing for
Thai
you."
women and white teachers.
If that's
Exactly.
nothing bad and nothing against that, but that's what is out here. And I remember I would get pushback. No, I date anybody. I don't care.
Mhm.
But I would get in my early days. I want to say 2015, 2014, 2015. I would get pushed back because women would always like, "Wait, why do we always see you with white chicks? Like, why don't you never be dating sisters?
Yeah.
Like, y'all ain't out here." Like, so as I was saying was that I get a lot of pushback from people because I don't date sisters out here on the road, and I'm like, there's no sisters out here. They're just not out here. So for you, when you become an expat, like, do you tend to date locals? Do you look for more Americans? Like, do you like?
I really just look for someone I'm interested in, who I vibe with, who basically we have a connection. And it could be, a sister from around my way who happens to be out there, or it could be a local, or it could be another expat from the other side of the world. It really just depends on the connection. Now, of course, we all have our biases as far as looks and things of that sort.
Right.
And to me, honestly, it doesn't matter color or not. If I find you attractive, I find you attractive. So it's not hard for me as far as that part, but it can be a challenge just finding someone that I vibe with. But everybody has their own preferences. So some brothers come out here, they
Why are
may
you so
find
difficult though? Seriously.
Making
You're such a difficult man.
It's
So
just
So
there's some truth to it.
Yeah. But you know what? I have a question for you because you're married.
Sir, yes.
You married a Thai woman.
Yes, I did.
So at what point did you you realize that because I presume you've dated sisters back in New York. You dated
Back home.
back home. So you want to tell us like the little bit of the story of meeting your wife and y'all get married and now you guys.
Yeah, I met her. We shook hands. We talked for a while. She said I do, and I said, hey, great, let's get
Done deal, man.
Let's do this.
He was happy she didn't pick up the knife like the last one.
I don't know, like fun just became a really good friend. I never had much interest in Asian women, to be honest with you, until I came to Asia. Everybody thought I was going to marry a Puerto Rican due to the fact that pretty much all my girlfriends were Puerto Rican.
Yeah,
And they all had like curly hair, and they were just, they were
Puerto Ricans.
The Puerto Ricans, right?
Come on, dog. You gotta explain that.
Dominicanos, papi, así. Oh, a mí me gusta culo grande.
I can't wait. I'm going to South and Central America in like a month, man.
So everybody thought I was gonna marry like a Latino, like seriously, due to the fact of the amount of attention I gave Latin women. But I don't know, we just became really good friends. One thing I do like about Thai culture, I mean, it's not like I'm saying I'm looking for somebody very passive or something like that. But they're quite loyal to each other. If they value you, there's a tremendous amount of loyalty you receive from your partner. That's what I got with my wife.
Even friends. Like I find my Thai friends are deeply loyal. They understand friendship.
Very, very much
Yeah,
so.
Thais. That's one thing I would definitely say about Thais, that they have Thai culture over Western culture, especially American culture, is they value how you feel. Usually in the States, at times like for example, I say families. Your kid's sick and you have to go to school and so forth like that. In the States, like, man, you got to work through the whole entire shift. You got to call, like my mom, so like call up this relative and that relative to go pick me up from school because you can't leave work. But in Thailand, no. They'll be like, oh, you sick? Your family? Oh, go home. So Thais seem to be very much in tune with just how that other person's being received on their emotive state. So yeah, Thais are a little bit way above us on that level.
I'll agree with that. Even with some other countries in Asia, you know, they definitely.
They value family.
I think a lot of places like that. Romania, also, even out of Asia, I found my Romanian friends, they're family. Like, they adopted me, I'm Romanian now. Like, it is a beautiful thing. But let me ask you this, because it feels like that you guys are firmly pro-Asian or pro-expat life. Would you go home?
Yeah, I do plan to go back to the States.
Right.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah, I'm still up in the air about it. It really just depends on what's, you know, what I'm enjoying or I really want to do at that time.
Okay.
You know, so
Okay.
if I can do what I want to do outside of the country, I don't see why I need to necessarily go back.
See, because for me, I'm never going back. I ain't going home unless I have to go home. Like, I'm gonna build a house here in Thailand in 5 years. like it's a wrap for me.
Yeah.
Only because, and this is why, and I'm gonna probably do a whole video on this, but for me, a place like Bangkok, and I'm a city boy. Like, I can never live in Chiang Mai or Phuket or anything like that. But for me, Bangkok and the surrounding area has everything I need in life. Like, there is nothing that I can't get here. Now, mind you, I was at fucking Central World, $11 for a box of Honey Nut Cheerios. Like, I'm gonna be getting sent a lot of care packages. But for me, you can get anything you want here. Like, for a fraction of the cost, like your nanny, you can build a house for 100 grand, like everything that I want. And I can get to Europe in 10 hours for 200 euro. Like, for me, I'll never leave. I'll never leave that expat life. And I think it's because, and one of the biggest reasons, I can't deal with the negativity back home anymore. I can't deal with the divisiveness of our culture anymore. And I think people are saying that it's worse now than it's ever been. But me, I'm thinking back, I'm like, no,
it's not.
It's not. It's pretty much how it's been. It's just that white people are feeling it now as well.
I don't know if it's just me, white people are feeling it now. Just those who are around right now are finally feeling that a closer level to what it's been before. Because, you know, we're young compared to maybe those before. I mean, they say, yeah, a lot of people are living longer, but I mean, how many of those people who are living longer really were involved in very challenging times?
And I think our generation, we haven't really faced hardship. I mean, we still have, you know, police shooting us in the ass as black men, but we didn't go through the breadth of the civil rights movement. Like, we didn't go, like, we grew up, you know, shortly during the crack epidemic. Like, that's our generation. And then we came out of that, you know, Reaganomics, but we weren't around for, you know, Kennedy and the Panther movement and, you know, the real Nation of Islam time. Like, we weren't around for that. So I think our generation is a little bit different in that way. But I think our generation also has the ability and opportunity to move abroad and to be successful around the world.
I follow. I just don't think the U.S. is worth giving up on.
Oh, yeah.
I just don't think the U.S. is worth
I'm not going to say I'm never going to.
I ain't giving up on it.
No, I prefer to actually, you know, be involved in, you know, the pace of change that's happening in the States. You know, the United States, to me, you know, outside of, call it, say, like, you know, all the social issues. I mean, there is tremendous opportunity to do something more in the States. You know, you're seeing this generation, millennials, and some of the you know, Generation X people. You know, they do have an interest in, you know, changing things, but for you know, for everyone, for the better, for the betterment of everyone. You know, I do see that there are times when basically, you know, there are cultural divides. You know, I mean, I grew up in New York, so for us, it's not just black and white at times. You know, Italians at times can't stand the Irish can't stand the Jews. You know, Jamaicans can't stand, you know, Nigerians, and Nigerians can't stand the Haitians, or the Haitians can't stand the Jamaicans. So for us, it's kind of like, you know, it's not just an issue of color, it's also an issue of ethnicity. Ethnicity really does, you know, denote the individual for being a particular type of person. So for me, what I'm seeing is that, you know, I'm going outside the idea of color, but more so towards behavior. If we can get a deeper understanding of who we are as a society, as a whole, and also within its, call it subsections, I really believe America can go past this particular, you know, moment in history and actually do something good for society as a whole. Just have to make sure that we put the right people in positions of leadership and so forth like that. Trump is the wrong choice, let's be honest about it, because he's very...
Yeah, can't nobody argue that.
That dude's different though, man. He doesn't act like a German American. He really acts like he's Italian. I've never seen a man talk with his hands so... he's like a Sicilian.
He's from New York, let's put that
He's
up
a
there.
New Yorker.
Yo, he's from like my area of Queens. And I'm like looking at him, I was like, yo, he does not act German.
But you gotta remember, he grew up in a bubble too, though. He grew up in a little bubble, man. That dude ain't like nobody.
Military academies and all that.
That dude ain't like none of us, man. He ain't like nobody. But you know, like
I know his people though. I know his crowd of people.
yeah.
Like the whole family thing and so forth. Want to include his family in all his business deals. Is that who does that? Sicilians.
Well, all right, guys. Let's we gotta wrap this up. I want to thank you guys so much for doing this, and we're running out of battery. Thank you so much for doing this.
You're very welcome.
And
I love the Sicilians.
if you guys have any questions, put them below. I will just send you guys some links. I'm sure they'll be fine with questioning it. But I want to close this out. Give me one thing, your favorite thing about living in Thailand.
Nigerians. I love the Nigerians. No one loves the Nigerians more than me. Believe me. Believe me. I would say no. I would say value. That's what I enjoy about Thailand. You know, not like a dodgy old English guy that comes out here like, oh, I can buy a beer for like 10 beers for the price of one in England. Not like that kind of mindset, but like, you know, when it comes to, you know, a lot of things are inexpensive, like traveling around the country, the cost of food, in addition to that, you know, fresh fruits and vegetables, you know, them being around in very close proximity.
Yeah.
The opportunity for people to be entrepreneurial out here, you know, lack of, like, you know, all the regulations and fees and so forth that you have to be concerned about back in the States if you're looking to do business. It's not the situation out here. And on top of that too, you know, Thailand is a place where right now things are moving in a positive way.
Is it me or is he sounding like he ain't ready to go back?
He ain't ready to go all the way.
I'm gonna go back home, just not now.
Correct.
Until I, you know, accomplish what I came out here to accomplish, then I'll be most likely heading to the West Indies.
All right. So what about you?
The same, but more for me, it's the ability to access so many other places around the world.
Right.
In such an easy, I won't say easy, but in such a short time. You know, you can get anywhere.
Get to Europe 10 hours.
10 hours, less than that. You know, you can get anywhere around here. Australia's what, 8 hours?
Yep.
And so that open access to so
many. And it's the same for me. Both of what you guys said, it's good. So again, we're gonna close it out there. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you.
You're welcome.
Hey guys, and remember, leave the world better than you found it. I'll see you in the next video.